Helmets on, helmets! 10 seconds!
Welcome, I'm Chris McKean.
And I'm Andy Kiner.
Normally it starts with, who cares, right? Special edition, episode 51. I don't have my notes in front of me. Oh, lots on the mind tonight, buddy.
Oh, that was good.
You called it a special podcast, kind of, clear the air, right?
Tonight's about the sport, not the series.
Yes.
It's about the sport. So, yeah. So we got some special guests tonight. We've invited to come on and get some stuff, just some stuff out there that we just want to get cleared up for everybody, and everybody can move forward. And we're lucky to have all the events that we got going. So,
yeah. All right. So with further ado, I'm going to bring on Jeff Revert, Rowdy Renwanz, and Joe Nelson. Thanks, guys, for joining us.
Thank you.
How's it going?
good.
So we briefly got to talk. We laid out some ground rules, kind of come to an agreement, and kind of discuss some of the things that has been going on or circulating with the last, I don't know, even say last few months, right? Up to 6 months. For me personally, I've been hearing things. So it's good that everybody can come together, as Andy said, for the sport. We want to see it to grow and to continue to have a place for everyone. So without further ado, Andy, you want to get us started?
Well, I want to start, like you said, I want to thank everybody because this is different than what we normally do, Chris. Normally I give our guests a week in advance, Not really, but these guys got about 3 hours advance, so they cleared the schedule to come on. So I definitely appreciate everybody. Even Chris, he's awful busy right now. It's kind of the worst time for him to be doing this, but for everybody just to jump on board and get some stuff. We know when stuff gets out there on the internet and social media, it's easy for it to grow legs and take off and become something that I'm not a fisherman, but that fishing story, it's a 12-pound fish and it actually ended up being a 4-ounce fish, So, but yeah, so just kind of want to get some stuff cleared up and go over and really just be transparent and move forward so everybody can have some, everybody can enjoy the sport and have good events and good racetracks and good racetrack facilities, right, Jeff?
Correct.
So let's just get started. I just kind of want to go around with you guys. I think everybody on here probably knows everybody, so it's not a thing that we probably have to do an introduction with. But, just we're dealing with a couple different things here. We got a racetrack. We've got the Iowa ATV Hare Scramble Series. And Joe, it's FNO Power Sports.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Okay. With the race that you guys had did and moving forward and stuff. So today I got people that'll watch, the internet and stuff. And I don't follow any of it, to be honest with you. But I had some people call and ask me. And then, of course, we get some other people involved that get started talking about like, well, why do we leave there? That was the favorite track. Why do we do this? Why do we do that? And pretty soon it puts a spin on it, that doesn't help anybody, and there was going to be hard feelings and stuff. And Chris called me, and I'm ratting you out here, Chris, but Chris called me and he's like, hey, he goes, you got to respond to this. And I'm like, respond to what? And he kind of screenshotted me, and that was probably one of the first times I'd seen it. And I was like, no. I said, you know, the rules, Chris, that we impose on ourselves is we don't respond to anything like that. We don't give it legs. We just don't involve ourselves in that. We've learned our lessons. It's our 23rd year of doing this, and it never goes in a positive way to be derogatory. So, or even questioned. So Chris and I was just talking. I said, hey, let's just call everybody. Let's get everybody together here. Let's be very transparent with everybody. And let's find out if maybe a channel was missed, a miscommunication, you know, or something. Let's just get everything cleared up. And, you know, people that are questioning or, you know, I was going to bring one down, but I've got one of those great big old stirring pots, you know, where we can, some people just like to stir this stuff and get it going, and it doesn't help anybody. So basically I'm just going to open it up and just get things started here. I'll bring up the first time that I remember even hearing about anything like this, and then everybody can kind of jump in and we can discuss or kind of debate back and forth on what happened when or why we're in this situation. But so I think we all know that coming into the season, we had tracks set up. I think we had I can't even remember now. I think we had a new track this year. I'm kind of lost on it right now, trying to think of it, but all set up for side-by-side racing. And literally my wife can tell you we were spending so much money on arrows. I mean, I think we spent like $7,500 last year on arrows alone that gets put up, gets ripped down after the race, gets thrown away. It's kind of depressing to think about it. But with that being said, we had came up with a way to get our own made, and we were making our own, and we had literally just picked up, I think it was 6,000 or 6,500. 15,000 was our first pickup, but 6,000 or 6,500 of them was all of our Renwanz custom made arrows for us this year. And literally, I think if I remember right, my wife got a text message while we were picking them up, but we didn't open it for like 2 hours later or something. And literally while we were picking them up, we got a text message saying that we were losing our insurance, that they would no longer cover our side-by-sides at our current events under the AMA platform. So we didn't know what to do, and we started making phone calls trying to figure it out. I called AMA, to be honest with you. I know we're online so people can see this. I chewed them out. I couldn't figure out why I'm just finding out about this. AMA, I felt like I'd be the first one to admit that I kind of was hammering on them, because the way I was understanding that it was basically from them, and I wasn't happy. And I definitely know that I torqued some people off out there that I'd never had an argument with before over this deal. We've been doing side-by-side racing since 2008. It was like 4 days or something like that, or 5 days after the 800 Razor came out. We had our first race, ironically, at Fort Dodge. It was our very first side-by-side event. So we weren't happy about losing this. Everything had been decided. All of our stuff is set up for the year for it. So we fought that for, I think, about a week, trying to get it figured out, maybe a little bit more than that before we actually put it out there. So we thought we could fix it at first. It came down to the point that we found out it wasn't AMA. It was the insurance dealing with AMA. And ultimately, I guess you would have to put it on AMA because it can't be used at their events. Nobody can be there before, after anything to be able to do this at a current AMA event. So we exhausted ours trying to find it, trying to get a different insurance to do it. And it just didn't make sense for us. It may make sense for other people, but under our, I guess you want to call it business, it did not make sense to move forward. And we end up having to pull the plugs on it literally like a week before our first race. It sucked. I wish I would have probably, in hindsight, put something out there that what's going on so people knew about it about a week before. But we were I thought we could fix it. We've always been able to fix it when we had insurance issues with those, and this one was not fixable. So So we had to pull our side-by-sides out of the series. They've been family with us, great people since 2008. Ironically, I don't think any of them have been here the whole time, but a lot of them have been here for a long time. So obviously we wasn't able to start the race out on a good note our first race of the season. And Chris can tell you, anybody can tell you, it was just weird not having side-by-sides at that first race. And it just seemed like everything was like something was obviously missing the whole time. So it was tough, and we were looking still for places. We let everybody know because we want to make sure that people could go and race wherever. We don't want to hold you up. We don't want you to miss a points race somewhere else. So that's why we communicated with you as much as we could starting out. And as soon as we found out that we weren't going to officially have anything, we thought if we missed a race or two, so be it, but we could get it fixed, and it just wasn't happening. And the 5 different places that we ended up contacting, 1, the prices were out. 2, with AMA, we couldn't have any spectators. The door was getting slammed every time we tried to walk through it. So long story short, we end up just saying we can't do it. We had hopes of still getting it back until about mid-season. We just felt like some stuff was going on about mid-season that, we're like, okay, we're just going to recommit to where we started. The series was originally started in 2004 as an ATV only. If we were smart, we would do bikes. That'd help pay the bills. But our love is ATVs, and we added the side-by-sides. So it's tough to say that we're not going to do them anymore, but about mid-season, with some extracurricular stuff going on, we decided, you know what, this is probably a good time to, with everything going on, just go ahead and cancel Christmas on the side-by-sides and let everybody know that we need to find a place that it just wasn't going to be, unfortunately, with us no more. So my race at Fort Dodge, I still remember it perfectly, Joe. I was in the skid. I was not happy. I was building a trail that the trees were shoved in on and stuff. And Jeff was over there with me looking at a place that I was begging to be able to get some more track out of. And I got the phone call. You called me asking about maybe doing a side-by-side race. At that time, I think it was very early in yours, but you didn't say anything about a series. You just said a race. And you'd asked me if I'd be interested in helping. If you remember what I told you, but I said, absolutely. Just let me know what it is. I'd love to help you if it meant scoring, if it meant doing anything. I said, I just can't have my name on it for insurance reasons. And if it was away from there, I probably even would have said, okay, that'd be fine, put a name on it. But I just didn't want to confuse people. So I just told you I'd help you. I'd help you cut the track. I'd do whatever, that was just before I knew that it was going to be when you said Fort Dodge, I just never imagined that it was going to be, it's not my facility. Hopefully Jeff's coming back, but
I think I got back there.
But it's not my facility, but I will be the first one to say that, I probably talked to you saying, man, you're doing it on our track, because we'd built that track, I think, 5 owners ago, way back when they had the very first 12 Hours of America there that I got a race at. We helped cut that track, helped build that track. And then pretty much everything had gone away except a couple hills, maybe a couple little tracks, but we had literally built pretty much everything else in there. Some of the guys that are with me had put, when I say me, I'm always talking about my guys. They do more work on the track than I do. And they had worked. We figured, I think we'd had like 24 races or 25 races there in the 22 years that we had raced there. Or in 22 years that we've been doing this. We didn't go there. I think it was 3 years, if I remember right. But some years we went there twice. We had the Heartland there multiple times. So it was just kind of, it was kind of a kicker, that they're going to do it there, I guess. And then but that's the first time you and I had ever talked about that I could remember, Joe.
Yeah, it was.
But I remember I turned around then and told Jeff, I said, hey, Joe Nelson's going to be calling you. He's interested in doing a race, and I told Jeff, and I never just make this clear. I've never once said anything to Jeff about not doing it or anything else. It's not my facility to make that decision. And you know, you and I had a conversation, so I'm gonna let you take off from there, and then we can just jump in, and whenever. So.
Is that to me or to Jeff?
Well, I think more to you. At that time, Jeff hadn't talked to you, and I know it's just a chance to kind of get this out there, a timeline, where we started, where we end up, where we're at now, So
I think there might have been a little bit of talk, between me and Rowdy, and I think Jeff might have heard about it prior, within a couple days of me and you actually talking. And then I would say it was within a few days of all that, where the light was shed to you and how you said you'd be interested in helping, with the guidelines, like you just said, that me and Rowdy had sat down with Jeff and kind of went over what we were thinking and what we were planning. And I mean,
you willing to help at the beginning really gave us all right, we can do this. We can put on one race so the side-by-side guys can have a race.
Gotcha. Yep.
And, that was the big thing, watching a lot of people over the winter build their machines and get them ready for all of it. And then, everybody lose it at the last minute, which, it wasn't your guys' fault. We can't really point fingers really at anybody for that. That's just the way life works. But we figured we'd try to do something the best we could. And us both being good friends with Jeff, we figured we'd, reach out to him about an opportunity. And everything's just kind of stemmed from there.
So I know, like I said, I don't feel like you and I had a bad conversation. I just remember seeing something that was posted online because, again, when we first started talking about this, you'd even asked me about I even told you, I think, or maybe I just told somebody about the darn arrows we just had built, and you'd ask me, hey, would you even mind donating them? I said, sure, I'll do something like that, but again, everything was fine until my first red flag went up. Well, obviously a red flag goes up if it's going to be at the same facility, but it is what it is. I mean, people get along like that, not a big deal. But my first real red flag went up is when I'd read the thing saying that you had mentioned in there that it was going to be like, I think 8 miles long and such, and, all this stuff. And I get that's early in the planning and all this and that. But then it caught me when you had said it's going to be, was 100 inches, I think it was, or 90 inches that they could get through there comfortably. You're talking
never
about
once said an exact number how wide it was going to be. I did specify that we wanted big cars to be able to get through there. Yes.
And then that's where it all got to play. We didn't know. I guess we thought we were going to need to widen stuff out there and for 72 cars to make it through, because there were 72 guys that came to the Iowa series and there were some tracks they just couldn't make it through and some they could. So we wanted to make sure they could make it through. And then it turned into like Mavars coming. But once we went out there, I guess we got ahead of ourselves and didn't realize that we didn't need to do much work out there at all to the trails. They're already wide.
Yeah, and you're correct on that. But I guess where the number came from was, Joe, you had told me, like you had said the Mav R's, and then what really got me, because I just knew more about them, was the Pro R's or something. What do you call the ones from Polaris?
Pro R.
Yeah, they're R's.
They're 89 inches, correct?
76.
Yeah, 76.
The widest ones are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have a new Pro R, and I've been through 90% of the trails out there, and the only thing that ever causes me an issue is the overhanging branches. I mean, the width is fine. You can get between all the trees with no issues. It's just any of the corners that have been washed out or dished out now lean the machine in, and most of the time it leans in toward a tree. And I know these guys came in and they flattened out some of the corners, they really didn't have to widen them out. They just flattened them out. So as you go around the corner, instead of leaning your machine in where the roll cage will rub the tree, it just follows around the tree nicely. So I don't think widening the track was ever an issue for them. And maybe initially it was, where they'd have to say, hey guys, we're going to be able to race the big machines and advertise that those guys could come. But as far as actually widening the track, I've been through, like I said, most of it, and everything they did to the property was kind of an enhancement that we could all enjoy, that just got rid of some of the overhanging trees, got rid of some of the limbs and branches that made it hard to see around the corner, and probably increased the safety a bunch, just because you knew what you were going to be encountering as you made the corner. So it really just cleaned up the property, made things a lot nicer for even myself and my son to enjoy after the race, because we didn't have those corners that were holding water or holding, you know how when the corners hold water in the summer, all the mosquitoes, and it starts to smell and get stinky. They got all that taken care of, and it's just a much nicer facility now. But the corners aren't any wider. It just cleaned up the whole program.
So going back to like when Joe and I talked, though, that was our first, I guess, called downfall, Joe, is when you had clearly told me, though, that we were widening them out for the big cars, is what you had said. And
but when I guess your version of widening and my version maybe are different. You know, I wasn't talking go in there and make it 100 inches wide, like I never said. I was talking, you know, we're going to go in there and make sure it's safe for the bigger cars. You know, they're not going to go in there and rip their machine apart in the first 5 minutes and create a hassle for everybody. And, you know, that's what I was meaning by widening, was just cleaning it up, you know, getting the overgrowth back and making it more visual.
So, and I get what you're saying there, but I know you and I had talked, and maybe I'm off here, but I could have swore that when we were talking, because I don't know the measurements on those big cars. They're not cross-country cars. It doesn't fit what we were doing as cross-country racing, you know. So I didn't know those, but I thought you and I had talked, and something came up about some car, and it was like 89 inches wide or something like that. Maybe I'm going off the ones for the short course. I don't know, I guess. But it came out, you had told me that's where we, you know, had the conversation that you were definitely going to widen stuff out. And I said that, do you realize if you're having 8 miles of course in there, I said the largest we've ever had for UTVs was 4.5 without using the neighbor's property. And you had said that you're going to widen the tracks out. So that means using all the trails that we had, basically, because we only had 5.5 miles of ATV track on that facility. And if you are going to widen all them out to where you can get a big car through there comfortably, like you had mentioned, I want to be able to get through there safely. What does that do for a 48-inch YFZ going twice as fast as a side-by-side? It makes it very, very dangerous. I think we can both agree on that, correct?
I mean, yeah, on a sport quad, I could see it getting, you know, a little too fast for some sections, but I mean, I had sent you a track preview video, a solid, I think maybe a week or 2 weeks after the Heartland race, and kind of showed you our progress and our visions. And it was made pretty clear in that video that we hadn't widened it to what, you know, maybe you were thinking we meant by widening it.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, if I say a measure for some reason that was in my head when you and I were talking, but it still comes down to the widest side-by-side, sport side-by-side, you know, that you can buy, right? And
right.
We're still dealing with 250s, 300s that are 44 inches wide, adult quads that aren't any wider than 48, you know, so we're talking going 2 abreast through all that stuff. And I elaborated that to you in a conversation that you and I had about, if you do this, that will not allow us to race on this facility if it's going to be widened out like that. Do you remember that conversation?
I do remember that. And I mean, when you get them wider sections though, it's, where we're concerned, you get a wide spot in the woods, put some dips in there or throw some jump, some little mounds up to give people checkup points to slow them back down, is the next place we could go in that option.
And like you and I had talked, and I know it's been commented very time on, it used to be Fort Dodge was always thought, oh my God, it's going to be dust. It's just a dust bowl. So that's the other thing that we talked about is we do ours typically in the beginning of the year so we can stay away from this, try to beat the stock car racing or early in, to get it in. But so when we have all that dust and now we're increasing the speed, it's a wider track. Even if it's not physically wider, I know what you guys are saying. If you clean it up and you've cut and everything and trimmed everything back, it makes no difference. If you can drive or race the widest sport quad or side by side through there, it's going to be twice as wide as, you can easily get 2 ATVs through there side by side. That's the cold hard truth. You know what I mean? So if that changes to where we're racing side by side, it becomes a huge safety issue. And that's what you and I talked. I said, hey, for me, it's a safety issue. I can't have guys out here going, instead of 25 mile an hour, it seems like you're going 50. I can't actually have them going 50 through here. And I know that's where you're talking, putting jumps and other ideas on stuff to slow them down. But when you have dust like that, that doesn't necessarily make anything better. It is what it is. So, but anyway, we had a difference of opinion on what that was. And I was clear to you. I said, I just hate that you're doing at a race that we've been at for so long. And it appeared from our conversation, and don't get me wrong, this is not to kick anybody or say and blame anybody. I'm going over a conversation that we had early, but I clearly told you that I didn't think that you were thinking of the other 250 families that were just there racing. When you were talking about widening it out like this for the side-by-sides. And I said, I thought that this would be a side-by-side track only. And I clearly remember telling you that, hey, I know Jeff and his kids like racing side-by-sides. I know that's a key for him. And if that's what he wants to do, then that's fine. That can be what's done. But I told you then that if that happens and it's widened out like that, then it's just it's not something that I don't want to be there. I can't bring people there and have a safety issue like that where we're going twice the speed side by side instead of being, you mentioned like that stuff that's out there close and it's hard to get through. Well, that slows the ATVs down, and they can't see that. It's a narrower track, even if it's just the bushes hanging over, the trees hanging over from having the side by sides on it in the past. So we had an issue with, guys wanted to come race, though they said they wanted to, that was wider than 72. We hardly had any 72-inch cars. It's just not cross country, in my opinion, when you bring a motocross or, some other kind of machine to a cross country race and just mow down the trees. It didn't work for us. That's why we didn't widen them out. We hated to do 72, but we kind of gave in to some people, and we only ended up having like 3 or 4 of them that was even 72, it seemed like. So that's where our concerns are. I'm gonna point finger at me. My concerns was what you were doing up there. But I understood, and I told you that I completely understand the rug's been ripped out from underneath you. And, I get having to do anything, but if you have to do it like where it's going to take a track away from us, then we'll just pull out. And I told you, I'm not going to throw a fit. I'm not going to raise anything. I never said anything to anybody about, being mad at you for doing it. If you're going to do it, then that's fine. We'll just pull out and you've got a place to do your series or your races and stuff, we spent a lot of time on a lot of building stuff out there, like with the Heartland Challenge and stuff like that was man-made stuff that's put in. And even Jeff gave me a hard time for some of that stuff, that was going to be out there, but that was just there. And just to hear like your thoughts immediately on like, hey, we're using this, we're using that, such and such. And I knew I wasn't in a position to tell you no. So the only thing I could do at that point would be like, hey, if you're going to do that, so be it. We'll just pull out, So I felt like I kind of talked to you then. We're talking shortly after the Fort Dodge race, if I remember right. We probably had that conversation a month after maybe or something. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. But, I mean, so that's way back in, May. I'm going to say early
Yeah.
June.
But we had talked about you, you know, like you were saying, we were talking and you were talking about pulling out, but you never, I guess to me, you left that a very broad subject because the way you made it feel to me was you were pulling out of helping us in any manner with our events.
Yeah, not pulling out from Racing Fort Dodge. You're like, well, if you
Yeah.
guys are widening it, I'm not going to help you. And then we didn't
Well,
widen it.
well,
It's
okay. So we're going to agree to disagree because I've been pretty clear with everybody, you know, on us pulling out. Like, we were not going to be a part of it. And like I said, I can't go over enough when you and I went over the details of like the side-by-sides versus the ATVs and the sizes and it not being safe. I think that right there would tell you if it wasn't clear to you that we were pulling out. But I know in my heart, I told you that we just wouldn't be there. I mean, it'd just be a thing where we would pull out. And I'm not sure how it would be because I told you I need to back off of this and not be helping if it's a track that we're losing because of this. I just didn't want to be a part of it, obviously. When we first started this, I guess I went back to when we first started. I never made a phone call to anybody that had a race in any property. I went out and built my own. I did all that stuff. You know, when we lose a track up there, what do? It forces me to get better. It forces me to go out and find another track and build another track, you know. So I just wouldn't put myself in that situation. You guys got to do whatever's best for you. But, you know, obviously it hurt me the first time I heard that you're actually doing it at a track. But I know you guys are from there. I know you guys, you know, had raced there, knew Jeff. So it just is what it was. I didn't have you know, anything to stand on because it's not my facility. You know, we've been there for a long time, but it is what it was. But that's where it appeared to me that like it just felt like, you know, a kick in the nut, you know, for trying to get stuff going and helping and doing stuff for so many years for side by sides. So all of a sudden, it hurt us just as much as anybody. And all of a sudden, you know, just come in and take over on a track that, you know, we had this conversation and it was obviously it wasn't going to work for us anymore. At least I thought it was clear that it wasn't going to work for you anymore. But I know for a fact that like some of your people, like I talked to Jeff about this situation at the Heartland or before the Heartland. It must have been getting talked up there at least, I'm saying, because I can tell you for sure at the Heartland, right after the Heartland was over, Chris, I'm not sure if you can contest this or remember this, but the Heartland was just over this year. And the other Jeff, your hired hand or guy that helps you, and the landowner next to it that we race on, I'd never met. I think I had met him once, walked up to me and said, "Hey, there's a rumor that you guys aren't coming back." And I said, "I've been very clear with that." I said, "I don't know yet." And my exact words was that night is, it just depends off whether the track gets widened out and they have this race. And if they have the race, then no, we will find a new home. We'll do other stuff. So I know for somebody up there had to have been talking way before that if the hired hand and the neighbor's going to come to me and ask me that stuff. And I know for a fact that I had conversation with Jeff over this and saying that, hey, if that's what you do, that's what you do, you know, and Jeff had mentioned to me when we were talking then is, I don't know if you remember this, Jeff, you said, maybe we just need to get everybody together, you know, maybe we need to get everybody to talk. And I'm pretty sure I said that I don't really have a reason to do that. You know, I mean, if it's going to be widened out, I don't have a reason to talk. I mean, you guys are doing your thing. We're doing our own thing, but I never once ever got another phone call until you had reached out. And I give you credit, Joe, you had reached out and you'd sent us that video. Chris had watched it, but I can tell you at that point, I was so burnt out over the situation. I was looking for new tracks. I'd already kind of committed to a track. I never even watched the video. I didn't think it had anything pertaining to do with me. Chris had watched it and kind of told me a little bit about it, but I was already at the point that I knew that we were leaving based off you and I's conversation. I took you at your word and I said that, hey, this is what they're doing. So I'm not going to cause trouble and I'm going to do this over here, you know? So I don't know if you guys want to throw in anything there. I know, Rowdy, you said that you didn't widen it, and I get that now, but you and I had a conversation our last ATV race this year, the last series, and you had asked me something about this, and I don't think I've changed my story at all from what I told you. It was the same thing going off of what Joe had reached out. Actually, I'm sorry, I reached out to Joe on that with the post that was on the internet about widening out for the big cars and stuff. And you told me then, I wish I would have known about that, because that wasn't the case. And that's a conversation I told you that Joe and I had. And I think there was something else that came up between you and I talking that day. I can't remember what it was about the races, but yeah, I don't know. But anyway, so long story short, we get to this position. If you guys want to say anything about what I just said, you're more than welcome to. Do you guys have anything to throw into that?
I guess when we found out you didn't want to help anymore because we were going to widen it for 72-inch cars, I think Joe got upset, or we both got upset. And so then it was, well, if he doesn't want to help, then we'll make it fit the Mavars, the bigger cars. Since he doesn't want to help us anyway, we'll just go the extra route to get more cars there so we can, have a big event. And it turned into, I don't know. I wish we could all apologize. And since the track isn't widened, you'd come back to Fort Dodge next year. Not next year, but 2027.
Yeah. But I mean, it goes, I hear what you're saying, but it is widened. I mean, you guys have both told me that you only cut so many trees down and you widened out, and you can comfortably get a large car through there now, right? You're talking, it's not 72s. 72s raced there when we were there. You're talking 76. Jeff just told us all that it's all cleaned out enough now that he can comfortably get the biggest car that's made through there, correct?
He was able to get the cars through there before, like, I guess the only problem was getting big cars through there is after we raced, the berms on the turns were built up that it kicked the cars over. Otherwise, big cars could always get through there.
Yeah, I took a 5-seater Expedition, and then my 4-seater XP1000 is what we used to judge like the width and everything for the track. I mean, so if we couldn't make the turn, or if we had a tight section that we know we needed to groom with them machines, that's how we based it. We didn't go off of, taking a 76-inch car in there to build that track. We took 64-inch base model machines, in there to set it. I mean, we didn't anticipate on widening, width-wise. We anticipated, when we say widening, as in like grooming the track. The trees that we did cut out were, danger spots. Yeah, they were a couple spots that were impassable. Pretty much with like a UTV, you'd have to go around it to get through there. And even on a sport quad, it would be a tight section. That would be maybe where we took a tree out.
So like I said, I can only go back to, you had told me, you had posted in your social media that you were widening the tracks out for the Pro Rs, is what it said. And that's when I reached out and talked to you about that. And you told me indeed that's what we were doing. So that's all I could go by. So
now we've had big cars there in the past, and the big cars that we were anticipating were the same size as the big cars that were there,
But we've never had a Pro R through there ever. Not in any of our races.
Yeah, Heartland raced a Pro R my first year. There was 2 Pro Rs at Heartland, like 2021 or 2022, one of those years.
I don't remember that. They never finished. They wouldn't have fit through there.
They ended up in the creek. One of them did anyway.
Probably on the first lap because they didn't fit anywhere. But yeah, so like I said, it all goes down to like my whole thing. When I talked to you, when I talked to Jeff, when I talked to the neighbor, when I talked to anybody, it was about the widening, and it was going off of your conversation with us. If you had sent something to me, which I know you did, I'm not saying you didn't, and I give you credit for reaching out and trying to do that. I hadn't watched it, so I don't know about that. But based off my last conversation with you, as it was getting widened out, the word was widened, and that's why I reached out to you to talk to you about it, knowing that it wouldn't work for us if that was the case. So that's the only thing I could go by was on that deal. So
knowing that it's not widened, with our sincerest apology, can we see Fort Dodge in 2027?
Oh, I would never guarantee that. Never. I mean, you guys got to understand.
You know what?
Oh, go ahead.
And I think we're maybe making a big deal out of this widening the track.
Oh, jeez.
Hold
Yeah.
on.
You had
Oh,
to
I-
say something about connectivity issues.
Yeah.
Hold on,
Maybe
he's
we
back.
need to get him some better Wi-Fi.
Back,
Yeah.
Jeff.
I'm sorry, guys. It's cutting in and out on me, and sometimes I can hear you great, sometimes I can't. But I think if going back to widening the track, at some point we just got to understand. And I think even Andy has used my skid loader bucket. My tooth bucket's 76 inches wide. So when maybe we don't realize what 82 inches is and what 89 inches is, that a regular car trailer is 82 inches between the fender well. And we all know a Pro R will easily fit on a car trailer. And if we've used these same tooth buckets on a track loader, 76 to 80 inches wide is just what the skid loader bucket is. And we've always gotten skid loader buckets through there. You know, Andy's used 770 Cat. We've used my Takahauchi. 76 inches is kind of the minimum, that if we jump out to 82, even 89 is really not that wide. That, okay, yeah, you got 248-inch quads, you're getting to 100 inches. The distance or the width of the track hasn't changed. And as far as cleaning up the branches, sometimes that makes it easier when there's a dust situation, whereas you're always going to deal with a little dust. You may be getting roosted by the machine in front of you, but if there's less branches, less overhang, you can see better, and that in turn improves the safety. So I'm probably not on the page of, the track got widened out, because for years and years and years, we've run skid loaders through there with 76 to 82 inch buckets on them with no problem. And rarely do they even have a problem fitting through. Sometimes we got two skid loader buckets widths wide, that the width is probably not the whole issue here. That if there's an issue with these new guys coming in racing after Andy's been out there for years and years and years, and Andy and this group has been racing at this track prior to me owning it, that I've owned it for 7 years, and they were coming out, they were racing the program way before that. I raced out there before I owned the track with a 72-inch machine, or I think it was 78, and I had some aftermarket wheels on it. And it wasn't the most optimal. I wish I had something narrower, but 10 years ago, I ran a machine through that was 70 plus inches without a whole lot of trouble. So yes, it could be a safety issue, but it's been the width that is now for a lot of years, and it's never been a problem. That I just look at Sports Park Raceway. It's a motor sports venue that we do circle track racing. We've done ATV, UTV racing for years. Now we've had motocross out there. It is an excellent spot for this series, for Rowdy and Joe series, for stock car racing, and for the Iowa Moto series, that I hate to see it go away over somebody arguing if the track got widened or if it didn't get widened. And today, when they announced the Hare Scramble Series announced their new schedule, and the Heartland Challenge wasn't on it, and Sports Park Raceway wasn't listed at least once, I started getting phone calls like, "Hey, Jeff, what did you make these guys mad, or what happened?" And I said, I don't think I made them mad, but if I allowed another group, apparently they're competitors, to race at the program, now the IATV HSS doesn't want to come back. That's a sad deal, but it shouldn't have to happen. That Okay, bad deal if the group lost insurance funding. So if these other guys can get insurance, great. Why can't we have, say, a 2-day event? We run ATVs on one day, UTVs the next, and we all get along. But I think as people evolve, myself included, you have kids that may want to run an ATV. I'm to the point, I'm 50 years plus, I'm not racing an ATV. I want to be in a side-by-side. But if my son wanted to run an ATV, he could run an ATV on, say, Friday and Saturday. I could run my side-by-side on the Sunday. And yet here we are arguing about trail safety, which really has not changed, and insurance, which these other guys have. So, Andy, if you have insurance for a Friday, Saturday ATV program, and Joe and Rowdy, you got insurance for a Sunday program, why can't we get along? And to a point, I'm in the middle of it because I get paid from Andy to run his event there. I get paid from Joe and Rowdy to run their event there. And my only job title is I put some water down where it needs to be. I keep the concessions run where they need to be. And if there's an issue that I can help you guys with, I'm there to help you out. And in the end, when you leave, you guys settle up with me and you clean the property up. In the meantime, I just try and keep everything running as smooth as possible and keep everybody happy as best I can for not being the guy running the show. And now when I get messages all day like, hey, why aren't we coming up to race Fort Dodge anymore? Well, I guess I really don't know. I think Andy's mad because I let somebody else race. Andy says it's a safety issue, which I don't believe. Track's been that wide for as long as I've owned it. Joe says, hey, we've taken down a couple trees just to make it more conducive. And I believe that. I've seen a couple trees get removed, but it hasn't widened the track out substantially to increase the speed for a TRX 400. And if it did anything, again, I think it helped it become more safe just because you can see around clearly without the overhang, without the branches. And it allows the dust to move through the track. The places where there was a ton of overhang, the dust doesn't move because there's no air. Now, if they've taken the overhang away, the dust moves away because there's more air. It's just an overall better facility. Plus, then you get the motocross section, and I know, there's some ups and downs to the ATVs on the motocross, but for a viewing point of view.
No,
He was on a roll.
he was. He was.
Hope you don't start all over.
But yeah, we'd love to work together.
It would be
We can get
amazing.
insurance.
All right, I'm back.
All right.
All right. So, and I don't know where I lost it, but when we had the motocross section, there were so many spectators that walked from the pit area past the concession stand down the traveled portion where you come in and stood and watched the motocross, both in Andy's event as well as Joe and Rowdy's event. It adds to the spectator enjoyment of the program. And I think that would help both you grow when there's more spectator involvement. And I think as I've watched Andy's program grow, I've urged him to use the back side of the pits, the front side of the pits, and even part of the racetrack I think back a couple years ago, we got some rain on the racetrack, and I wish Andy's guys hadn't driven across the track when it was muddy. But we understand if it rains during the race, that's how it's going to be. But when these ATVs and side-by-sides enter the racetrack, go through the middle or around the backside, people can see them. So whether it's the pit crew or the wife or the girlfriend or the kids, all these racers are now way more visible to the spectators, and that increases the enjoyment. And when these same racers race around the backside of the pits where people are pitted and helping them out, or come around the front side of the pits, it again increases the enjoyment for all the spectators and the pit personnel, that when they're strictly through the woods and nobody sees them, but for the 20 seconds they come through scoring, it gets kind of boring for anybody that comes out to watch or try and be entertained by that race. So the more chances you have to get them out in front of a crowd, whether it's through the pits, through the motocross section, or on the actual racetrack, I think it's good for everybody. And it definitely helps my concessions when you guys start them on the racetrack. Everybody goes up, they sit in the stands, they grab a burger, they grab a pop, they grab an alcoholic beverage, watch the start of the race. They take a half a lap through the center of the racetrack, off into the woods. Then they run over to where they pop out of the woods coming through the pits. And that sure helps make it more entertaining. That you have to be a dedicated race enthusiast to watch an ATV go through the woods, which you can't see, and only pop out for, say, 20 seconds by the scoring and then back into the woods. That makes it no fun for anybody that's racing the program. And I think for both groups here, in order to make it grow, it needs to be more of a spectator sport. And it's not a spectator sport when they're exclusively through the woods. So again, I don't know why we're even arguing, or we have to have this on air podcast. That had we all talked about it early on and maybe got to the bottom of it, and I would agree. I tried to talk to Andy several times, and he's like, well, I'm going to see what I'm going to do. We're going to see if it gets widened out. And then Joe inadvertently or maybe on purpose said it's getting widened out. We should have all sat down, talked about that at that time. Okay, Joe, are you really widening it out? Rowdy, are you really widening it out? And Andy, are you really not coming if it gets widened out? And it could have saved a lot of hassle, because I think there are people that love Fort Dodge, love the event, and it's just a natural place to have a race. That any other race other than maybe the Wisconsin venue is actually probably a race in a farm field, in a pasture, or on somebody's property that makes it difficult for spectators and even race enthusiasts to come to. Whereas they come to Fort Dodge, they can camp, they can spectate, they can eat concessions, they can sit in bleachers, and it's a race venue. Most of these others are not. They're glorified race venues in a pasture. And people would like to see Fort Dodge and even the Wisconsin race continue, because they're favorites. That if it can't continue because it got widened out a couple inches or a couple branches got taken down, there's got to be something we can do to alleviate that situation to make it good for everybody. And then the next thing I think is very important, UTVs are kind of the growing entity in this sport. That you cannot buy a 400EX anymore or a 300EX anymore, that there's only the Yamaha Sport Quads out there, and their sales aren't great. But if you want to buy a Razor 1000, a Razor 800, a Can-Am X3, or a Mav-R, those sales are stellar. That if we want to see this off-road racing, whether it's on an ATV or side-by-side grow, we have to kind of embrace what's currently popular. And, for Joe and Rowdy's first race ever to get 40, 50 quads. And, I looked at a factory Polaris there that my understanding was a $200,000 machine, that there's only a couple out there. For that guy to come, they're supporting that kind of thing. And I know it's maybe not the family atmosphere that Andy has talked about for years, that, hey, we've grown up with this. We still need to continue that family atmosphere, but we could continue that family atmosphere on a Friday, Saturday, and then jump to Rowdy and Joe's program on a Sunday. And I think we'd all grow and we'd all be much happier.
Yeah,
I agree.
I agree with a lot of that. That's for sure.
I'm going to surprise you. I agree with 100% of that. When you're talking about side-by-sides, when you're talking about motocross, when you're talking about circle track, I agree with you. But you didn't describe our sport. And that's not what we were coming on here to talk about, but we can sure talk about it.
And sometimes, guys, I don't understand the whole program with Rowdy and Joe. I don't understand Andy's whole program. But my position is, as a track owner, I don't know if I always have to. That, again, Andy and Chris are paying me to have this race there. Joe and Rowdy, again, they're paying me to have this race. I make money off what they pay me and the concessions. That I don't necessarily have to understand it, but I've tried to improve the program for Andy. You know, we've added rollers and other things to try and make it nice for him. I've urged him to do things onto the track that makes it nice for the spectators. And again, Rowdy and Joe, I was like, hey, you know, you can do this, you can do this. I think this would help. And they've taken those things and run with it. And I think everybody's program has improved. That I've heard nothing but positive things about Rowdy and Joe's program and Andy's program the last couple of years. I don't hear any negativity about that. And maybe some of it's been lucky that we've had some rain where we didn't have as much dust. Seemed like the guys would rather race with a little mud than dust. We were able to successfully water around the pits and certain areas where they come shooting through. That if you're supporting these guys or you're pitting for them, nobody wants to sit there and eat dust all day. And so if I could successfully water it, I think that definitely helps. So I guess I'm here to help everybody out, but they have to tell me, and they have to be honest about it with what they need. You know, so if what I'm doing is not good for Andy, okay, I understand that, but he needs to be honest and say, hey, it's not good for me because it's a safety issue. Or is it really, hey, somebody else is coming into this program and I don't want to compete with them? That I don't know. That I guess I try and work with other tracks as far as my circle track racing. Not a lot of times does everybody want to work with other people. But as the economy tightens up, as people have only so much disposable income to spend, us race promoters, whether it's Joe and Rowdy and Andy and Chris, have to work together with other groups to make it feasible or financially feasible for these guys. And now, you know, a lot of the comments I got today was, there's no races in Northern Iowa. We don't want to drive 4 hours to race in Missouri every time. We want to have something local. And while we'll drive 4 hours to Missouri, we want to have the guys from Missouri drive 4 hours to see us. So is it really fair for Andy's group? Northern Iowa guys have to travel down south. Yeah, that's tough. But if they in turn can understand that the Southern guys will have to drive up to see them, that makes it more reasonable. So, you know, and I don't know where Joe and Rowdy are planning on having other races. That I think North Central Iowa is a great place to start. And I think it's a good place for Andy too. But you got to, if you're going to pull people from different states, whether it's Nebraska to Wisconsin to Minnesota to Iowa to Missouri, you got to have some races that work for everybody. And I think Sports Park Raceway is centrally located that it will work for a lot of people. And I hate to see it go away over a non-issue. You know, that the trail width is to a point a non-issue. It's been the way it is for a lot of years. And, you know, we can argue about 89 inches versus 82 inches versus a skid loader bucket that's 80 inches. It's been like that for years. And I don't think it's going to change whether Joe and Rowdy run it or Andy and Chris run just strictly ATVs. It's always going to be where it's at. And that shouldn't be an issue. It should be an issue of, hey, we need to work together and enjoy the facility and enjoy the area and get people coming and supporting ATVs and side-by-sides.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I guess the only way to show to you guys that we didn't truly widen the track is, you know, come up, spend a weekend up here and ride the track on some four-wheelers and see what your opinion is. You know, maybe give us a brutal opinion on if it truly changed to the point where you guys aren't happy and won't come back, or if it is actually still a manageable track for you guys.
I don't feel that it's been like stuff has been blown out of proportion, but I don't feel that anything's been said or done that can't be taken back after an apology. And there's nothing that me and Joe wouldn't do to run with your guys' series or to just have your series come back to Fort Dodge. Like, we will do, you know, anything to make those happen.
Yeah, because I can agree with that 100%. Because the family environment that we always had around when your guys' series was amazing. We definitely liked it, and kind of like Jeff said earlier, that's a big thing too. Is we all have kids, and watching our kids grow up and want to race, and we all get to that point where we don't want to be on a four-wheeler because our bodies just don't take it as well. So it would be nice to have a series, where we could come together and be able to run, a 2-day event, and parents be able to watch their kids race and kids be able to watch their parents race. That'd be amazing.
Gotcha. My turn?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So this is all great. Like I said, I agree with everything you guys are saying on motocross, on circle track, on side-by-side racing, not ATV hare scramble racing. Does anybody remember what hare scramble racing is? Hare scramble racing is racing in the timber. It's not a spectator sport. In the last years, what have we lost? Jeff, you know better than these guys what we've lost. You can use the infield. You can't use the infield. You can use the front stretch. You can use the back stretch. No, you can't use the front stretch. You can't use the back stretch. We're going to have a motocross track built. It's only going to go this far. Oh, I'm sorry. It went a lot further than what I told them it could go. We've lost so much timber up there. It's not even funny. My direct conversation with Joe when all this came up, it maybe seems silly about widening stuff out, all that. That's fine. But ATV racing and hare scramble is tight timber. That's what it is. It's not passed for spectators can get out there and look. They can walk anywhere they want to look. But when you widen it out, my conversation with Joe was, I only have, before we even really started talking about all the widening, I only have about a half a mile to a mile of true hare scramble racing for four-wheelers left at that facility, period. And I asked, I said, are you going to get on that track? And you said, our goal's not to, but I can't promise anything. And I said, okay, we're done. Now we can hash on what was said, what was done, not said. But again, you guys have all described every kind of racing perfect except ATV racing. I have youth racers. I have older youth racers. I have adults racing on these machines. I, believe it or not, I know what's dangerous and what's not dangerous, where I exceed the speeds, where I can't exceed the speeds. I have no Jeff Soft. I don't know if you can hear right now. All the people that have came to you and said, hey, we need this and we need that. We're talking about the guys in the north, the northern parts. That's all perfectly glad. No matter what you guys had for if it was 2050 or whatever, I guarantee you there's 3 times that are glad that it's not on there because we're going further south where 99% of our people are. If you look at the racers that race with us, 99% of ours are central Iowa and south to mid northern Missouri. So it doesn't make sense for me to keep pulling them up there when I'm fighting this stuff. I've lost timber. Now it's motocross. Motocross is good for spectators. I don't care about the spectators in our sport. It doesn't make the spectator. It's not a spectator sport. We can try to make it a spectator sport, but that's not what it is. And I'm not willing to bend on saying that I can widen tracks out. I can make this so spectators can get there. That's not what I'm after. I'm here to put on the best ATV races, period. And that's not what I'm getting if I widen more stuff. I give and give and give up there to the motocross. Jeff, you know as well as I do, if you come out, or heck, nobody should know on here more than Rowdy. Your kid that raced up there this year with us on a 50cc, how much timber did he race through?
I'm not sure. I didn't walk the track.
Not even a quarter mile of timber did he go through.
Was that because the creek was wet during that, though, or?
No, that had nothing to do with that.
No.
They don't go over there. That's the motocross. The 50s don't.
Or like the river, not the creek, sorry. The next to the river.
The little kids don't do that. The little kids on the 50s, we are cut down to less than a quarter mile of timber that they race through now at that facility because we keep giving, we keep taking away, we keep cutting trees down. That's not our sport. I get why it's being done. I've never argued with Jeff on because of why we're taking them down. It doesn't set well with us because that ruins our sport. Yeah, we had a motocross there for the first race, but nobody could even clean it up for us. Our guys like the motocross. They said, man, it would have been fun to be able to hit the stuff. It wasn't cleaned up. It wasn't manicured at all for us. So it was like not even having that. All we did was give up timber to get a rough motocross track. That's not hare scrambles. When we go out to race hare scrambles, I love the UTVs on races. You asked Chris what I told him earlier. I hope all this goes well because I want you guys to be able to do 50 races if that's what you want to do. The issue here that we have is we can't do that now. It's not that we don't want to. Our hands are tied. We physically cannot do it under the AMA guidelines and rules. I can't do it. I just got back from out there trying to work on some of the stuff. It's not possible. So I cannot do that, okay, period. So I wish you guys nothing but luck. That's why I walked out of this facility so you guys can have a facility. If you want to widen it. Do whatever you want to do to have this. As far as saying that can we work together and all that stuff, that's all fine and dandy. But, I mean, Jeff, man, I mean, you put on a good speech there, and I agree with a lot of it. But me being honest, I think that's what kind of the kicker, too, is I've been honest with everybody from the get-go. Have I ever told any of you three guys, if we do this, that we were going to be back? No, I never did. I told everybody. So I have been honest from the very get-go on this, on what I was doing, what we were going to do. And it was to give you guys the facility if that's what you wanted and the landowner wanted that. It didn't make sense to me. You give up 250 families coming there at least twice to having whatever, 40, 50. I mean, I hope it gets to be 500 side-by-sides. That is nothing. We wish you guys nothing but well. But to set back and to post stuff like you are going to, like we're all working together and we want to work together, man, we both know what that is. You guys can't tell me that when you go behind our back trying to do some of this stuff, when you go behind our back calling our sponsors, you go behind our back calling all of our workers. I'm sorry, was that something funny?
I don't think anybody ever went behind your back, Andy.
Oh, so when you called my workers to have them come up and do everything, did you even talk to me about that, or was that just cool?
No, we had actually talked about it. Maybe not me and you, and that was with two workers that, had offered before I even asked them if they would be willing to help, and they offered to help. So,
and knowing how we felt about this, and you say I want to work with you, and let's do this series together, and it's not going behind my back calling other landowners. I
don't think I've called any other landowners specifically to reach out about using their property.
Okay.
I think there's been conversations mutually had about that with other places, but
okay. So when you say you want to work together, my biggest issue is having other races at the same places. That's not an issue with you. You don't understand that. So I don't understand why you would try to make it look like you want to work together, but you continue to go and do this other stuff.
We wanted a place, I guess. So we just wanted a race. That's why we started the race. And it turned into you not coming back to Fort Dodge and never having side-by-sides again. So if we were going to race, we were going to have to do our own series. And everyone knows they don't want to race the same track over and over for a hare scramble. So we had to find other tracks, I guess. And from my understanding, some of the track owners hit us up. They contacted us.
Yeah.
So what about actually doing something unique like other series do? Like maybe going out and finding tracks and building your own tracks. Have you ever thought about something like that?
I guess I knew when we were going to have a race. My business sponsors the Sports Park Raceway. So I guess that I didn't really think of. Yeah, I knew the Iowa series. I didn't think it was going to stop you guys from coming there.
Yeah.
But you guys realize, though, us saying that we weren't coming there this year, we never said we weren't ever coming there. We said we're not coming back. We're not doing it this year. So I don't understand what the issue is here We want you guys to succeed. We want you to do what you can race wherever you want to. I just don't understand the situation where if you want to do this stuff, why not just do it? We offered to help you. We offered to do whatever it was.
And then you took it back.
Yeah, because you were coming in and going to, at that time,
Your track, as you always say. Yes, we understand.
What's that?
I said your track.
And guys, it's nobody's track but Sport Park Raceway that we're arguing over something that the track hasn't been widened. They cleaned it up, made it nicer for both parties to use. I think we can agree on that. I wasn't always a party to, who Rowdy and Joe got for workers. I don't know. I didn't see anybody but what appeared to be Rowdy's girlfriend handling things, Joe's family handling things. And I see the same thing with Andy's group. It was always Andy's group and Rowdy and Joe's group. They seem like they're two different groups. And I understand if Andy wants to come and just race through the trees that nobody can see and it's really tight, that's a hair scramble type thing. The calls I am getting today are from both groups. Many people that are ATV fanatics don't want to see Fort Dodge get away. And like I said, I welcome anybody to a point who's paying me, and that may sound very one-sided, but I get paid from Andy, I get paid from Rowdy and Joe, and I want you both to come, and I think it's reasonable that you both can make it. That, Andy, if you're upset that we've allowed somebody.
Oh, lost again.
Take all night.
He completely lost it. So
It's just Iowa doesn't have a lot of tracks, I guess, and if the sport's going to grow or even stay the same, it'd just be nice to have UTVs and ATVs together and dirt bikes.
When you say the sport, what are you talking about?
Hair scrambles, racing in the woods.
So ATVs or UTVs?
Both. If we could just get racing in the woods. It's not popular in Iowa. There's not a lot of places to do it. So if we could just work together in any sort of fashion to have side-by-sides back with you guys would be great.
But I've already been very clear on that, Rowdy, and I'm not arguing that
Even,
a bit. I already told you we can't do that.
For insurance reasons, we can provide our own insurance.
Yes, we are not interested. We've done this too long. We want you guys to do. We're not holding you back at all. Obviously, our tracks aren't off. You guys can go to the tracks that you want to. I'm not telling you can't go there. I'm just saying the only reason I brought up like the workers and the tracks and all that is we make it sound like we want to work together and stuff. If you can't trust somebody, or if you can't, well, you're not going to work together. I have a hard time believing that anybody would say, I want to work together, but then we do this stuff on the side. It doesn't make sense to me at all. I don't get it. So that you can't have both ways. If you want to work with each other, one, you got to have a common goal, which we don't. Two, you got to be one to trust each other, which we don't. And I don't get that. Jeff's caught in the middle, and this whole thing, and he's not even really caught in the middle. I told Jeff that if they did those races, that's fine. That's his land. When I say our tracks, I'm talking about all the tracks that we build, we maintain stuff. They're not ours. I've said this a million times. 100%. No one can ever counter me saying that I have any kind of control, that Jeff can do whatever he wants, have anybody he wants there. It's his track, not mine. I don't have any right to say that. I've never said that. Jeff is only on here because he was part of it and people had questioned it and obviously reached out to him. And I get it. The Northern Racers, there's no doubt. I have no reason to even talk on here about our series or our racers or anything like that. We all know that the Northern Racers want a place to race. I've been the one that's had Northern races. I've been to Wisconsin. I've been to Minneapolis. I've been to all these places trying to get places. Waukon, Iowa. You know what the common thing is amongst all of the northern races is? They are the lowest turnouts, period. Because 99% of our clientele is in mid to southern Iowa to mid to northern Missouri. Our largest race, do you guys have any clue on when our largest race have been since COVID at Fort Dodge? Guess when? Easily this year. Our largest races we have had. Rowdy's been to all of them.
You guys did have a good.
Yeah.
All of our races this year were the largest we've had since COVID. They have grown unbelievable. Kids, adults, everything. I have no reason to argue with any of you guys about this, except for the fact that it's out there that we're not coming back to Fort Dodge. I've never had a facility or people around that facility argue like this that we're not coming back. I have never pulled anybody's leg, not been honest with anybody. I've told you guys what it was. I don't have a luxury of saying, I'm going to go race at Rowdy's track. So I can go trim that track out in a weekend. I'm not worried about that. I don't have that luxury. I have to go find a track through racers 99% of the time to be able to go find a track. And then it takes us several weekends. Like this year, we replaced a track. It took us about 6 weekends to build a whole brand new track from scratch. I get why people don't want to do that because it's a hell of a lot of work. It's much easier to go into a facility that has a track and let me just go piggyback off of it and I'm good to go. I get all that. I just thought when you guys are doing this that you guys would be wanting to do something unique and make it bigger and make it so-called the best, biggest XC event ever type thing, so speak. So, and it's not what it was. And like I said, I don't care if you talk to our workers. Any worker that wants to go, they can go.
We got told that if any of your workers help us, they don't need to help the Iowa Series anymore, and that's what you told them.
Go ahead and since someone said that, tell me who it was.
I did. That's just what I heard.
Please do, because that was never ever said. The only thing I said to them people when we had a conversation, so I know amongst 5 people that was said to. There's only 5 people there, so I can eliminate it and know exactly probably who that was. And you're right. If they told you that, I don't want them helping me no more at all. My exact words was, I would rather nobody goes and does that. Definitely not taking our material to go help with that stuff at all, because I want nothing to do with it. I don't want our series to be a part of it. We have workers that go help other people. That's not a problem. I think I'm figuring out now. Thank you, Rowdy, because I think I got a pretty good clue now. But that was never told. And anybody that was at that meeting can speak up and tell you that was never told that they couldn't do it. I told them I could not tell them not to help. And like I said, I could give 2 craps if one of my workers goes and helps, or you go to our tracks or anything. That is what it is. It's not that. It's that you guys try to make it sound like, oh, we won't come here because we're mad at this or we're mad at you. We were very clear with you in June of last year. Jeff, all the way up to August, we had our race there. It was very clear with them. Very clear with the hired hand. Very clear with the neighbor of what the situation was. So to say that supposedly we're not coming back because of side-by-side races or apparently or all this other stuff or whatever's being said, be very clear with people. It was said before that if we did this, if we went down this road, they weren't coming back. No one said we're never coming back. We were just giving you guys the facility to do it. We might have came to check the track out, but have we ever told you that we are never coming back?
I believe I've heard that. I might be wrong, but that's the feeling I got from it. We're never coming back.
And from who?
I guess when you look at the Heartland Challenge is kind of the crown jewel of the Iowa Hare Scrambles thing, and it's always been held in Fort Dodge, but yet you say all the guys are down south, why do we have the Heartland Challenge in Fort Dodge if it's always when most of the people attend are down south? And if people don't like Fort Dodge, why do we have the Heartland Challenge there? Well, I would argue people do like Fort Dodge. People do want to come back. And that's why maybe we're having this conversation, because I've been reached out to, I don't know, 40, 50 times today. Hey, what can we do to bring this back to Fort Dodge? And I said, well, I really don't know what the underlying reason is why they took it away from Fort Dodge. Because last several years, we've had 2 races in Fort Dodge, an early one and then the Heartland Challenge. And people seem to enjoy it. The facility is made for motorsports events. So now they're questioning me, why isn't it coming back? And I guess we just got to decide. I think we've taken out the issue that the track has been widened. It hasn't been widened. It's really unchanged. The safety issue is not there. That should be a moot point. So why do you not want to come back? Is it because Rowdy and Joe have run a race there? It was for a first-year event. It was widely successful. I mean, they had a great crowd, had decent spectators even, and for a brand new race, it went very, very well. And I think it probably could have gone better had Andy and his group come up and embraced him and said, hey, let us help you out. And I think, Andy, if you'd ask Rowdy and Joe, hey, could you come help me with my events? They would do that. So this willingness not to work together, I really don't understand it. But I think most of the people here want to know, okay, yeah, you said you're not coming back. Why are you not coming back? Is it because Joe and Rowdy have run a race and it has been your facility for years? And yes, you have done a ton of things to the facility over the years that even talking to the previous owners, they say, hey, Andy did this, and hey, Andy did that, and Andy dammed up this pond. Those are all great improvements to that facility. Why do we want to just let that go and maybe not come back this year, not come back next year, or, as I've heard, never come back when we've made all those improvements? Plus, Joe and Rowdy and their staff and friends, they have made a ton of improvements to the property. Those guys left. They cleaned up their mess. They cleaned up some of Andy's old mess. They cleaned up some of my mess. That they are a great asset to everybody. That if it's not possible to work together at some point, why are we working apart? And if Andy and Joe and Rowdy can't get along, if Joe's asked, hey, some of these employees to come, and it puts them in a bad spot with Andy and Chris, okay, that's a bad deal. But I think we all love ATV, UTV racing. I do too. And I'd like to see it continue to grow. I think the Northern Iowa guys, Missouri, even some guys from Nebraska, would like to see it continue to grow, or at least still be in the Fort Dodge area, Sports Park Raceway, so they can come drive a shorter distance, 2 hours, 45 minutes, and race there. That I really don't understand. Hey, the Heartland Challenge isn't coming back. It was kind of the crown jewel of the whole thing, but yet we say there's no support in Northern Iowa because everybody's from Southern Iowa or Northern Missouri. I don't understand it. And yeah, I believe I looked at some of the numbers these last couple years. The Hare Scramble Series has grown in participants, but it had side-by-sides up till this year. And will that growth continue? And hopefully it does. I want to see both sides of it grow. But when you start looking at a sales side from the power sports industry, there is no growth in sport quads. There is growth in utility side-by-sides and sport side-by-sides. So at some point, there's going to be highs and lows, ebbs and flows, and everything out there. We need to ride what's flowing right now, and that's UTVs. And Andy, I think if you have the opportunity to work with Rowdy and Joe, and they have the opportunity to work with you, everybody grows, and we can cut all these negative comments or negative Why aren't they coming back? Why can't they do this? Why can't they do that? Well, I think we can. We just have to work together to do it. And it looks like Joe and Rowdy are willing to do it. Hopefully Andy and his crew are willing to do it. But again, I don't always understand what Andy's saying. If they want to race strictly through the woods where nobody can see them and it's 50 inches and they got to bump a tree on a ATV every other corner, great. But that is not the feeling that I am getting from everybody that's contacting me today.
Okay.
You've heard from some of the people stirring the pot. I get it. No problem. They want northern races. I get it. I don't blame them a bit. There's races in Wisconsin to go to. I get it. But again, Jeff, you bring up valid points. The Heartland. Yeah, it used to be our crown jewel, but it has died. It's half the size it was from Carlisle to Fort Dodge. Why? Because I can't get as many people to go north. The same as the races are, Jeff, every single time. Waukon was our greatest, best race I believe ever had. The lowest turnout every single time. It got track of the year every single time, but people didn't travel. 99% of our people are from way south. It's hard to bring everybody up there. When we bring everybody up there, it's not double points. It's a bonus points race to get people up there. So they feel like almost like they got to go up there. But yes, some people like it. I'd say 5 years ago, it was probably one of the most hated tracks there was. Some of the stuff being able to do, like you've mentioned, like I thought it was the best thing ever when we were going to shut down the Heartland and you talked us into coming up there. Completely agree that was going to be a great place. Spectators can see it more, but the entrants don't show it. The people coming through the gate don't show it. You know what we averaged our last season with the side-by-sides being not this year, but last year? We averaged was it 15 to 17, Chris?
Yeah.
We figured it up, Jeff. 15 to 17 entries. You know how many people that brought in? 1.5 people per machine. 1.5 people. Okay. That's not counting the people that race four-wheelers with them. That's like a husband, wife, or this guy coming by himself. 31 people is what we figured up that brought in from the races for side-by-sides per race on average. Okay. You put the insurance up there that we can't get no more under our circumstances. We can't throw the drama that was up there with every single time. It just wasn't worth it when it came down to it for us when they took our insurance away. We fought it forever. We decided not to do it. End of case. It's not a question. And I've never brought this up to you guys. I have never said that after mid-season of this year when we can't get it and we're not doing side-by-sides, I've never brought it up. It's not that we don't love our side-by-sides. We got some of the best people I know race side-by-sides with us. It's not knocking them at all. But we have never reached out to anybody. We have never, not one of you three guys that are making this a situation that it's not, have ever talked to me before today about working with each other. Never once have we ever talked about that.
I brought that up in the past, Andy.
No, it's never been brought up to me. And
Right.
if it was shut down right away. It was shut down right away. Today, after the comments that were
And
out
I
there,
don't know what.
and then you asked me about working together. I'm like, I told Chris, that's the silliest thing I ever heard. If we're going to talk derogatory and stuff about this kind of stuff or not put the truth out there, why would I want to work with something? We can't do it, period. So we're not working. We're not doing it. If you want any of our workers to go help you, please, they can go right now. Publicly, I'm saying anybody can go help them, period. Anybody.
With no backlash or
no, obviously the person that
no
lied to you, yeah, there's going to be backlash. It's no reason. We're a tight family, I thought. And if we have somebody that's saying something that's not the case, then they're not part of the tight family that's there. The side-by-sides were with us, Rowdy, and it was as tight with them, we thought, as anybody. But the problem is we cannot do that. That's like asking me to tell Jeff to focus on drag racing right now at his facility. Guess what? There's no drag race at his facility. So he's got to focus on what he does. That's circle track racing is his focus. Why would he worry about drag racing if it's not part of his, if it can't be part of his program? My program is ATV racing, hare scramble racing, tight tracks. If I can make it a spectator place, I would love to do that. But that's not on my top 3 of my priorities to do. My top 3 priorities is to make a hare scramble track. And if anybody has raced on a hare scramble track, know that we don't truly want spectators on the track. You guys know, as I've said for 5, 6, 7 years now, the reason we don't have insurance, number one reason that we do not have insurance is because of helmet cams showing little Johnny on the side of the track watching it as a spectator. We can't even, for 3 years now, we haven't even allowed spectators in the timber. So that eliminates the whole the spectator thing in the timber. We can't even have them under our insurance. Okay. So we're not looking to pair up. I need to focus on 100% on my ATVs and getting to the best. Now, if I'm not reaching that guy in Wisconsin or the guy in Fort Dodge or the guy in Minneapolis that races with us, I am truly sorry beyond a shadow of a doubt. I am sorry, but I have 99% of my people that I'm trying to bring up. My event that replaces Fort Dodge will have way more people at the hare scramble race than I had at Fort Dodge. My people in my race in the Missouri tracks are bigger than they are anywhere in northern Iowa. I'm not dissing anybody in northern Iowa. I hate it, Rowdy. You asked you asked Chris what I tell you about Rowdy earlier about coming to the events this year.
Oh, that you were very the words are escaping me right now, but you're proud of him and, outstanding guy that even though he couldn't race side by sides, that he was still bringing his kids to race the UTV or ATVs, excuse me.
I love your guys' series. I was at every race last year. I'll be at every race this year. I hope the animosity stops. I feel like I got the cold shoulder like halfway through the season. I feel Chris, you were the only one this is me just crying like a little girl, but Chris, you were the only one to even have a conversation with me when like I was paying for the kids to race. Like no one would even talk to me. It was ridiculous.
I thought I talked to you almost every race or said hi.
You didn't. No. And I mean, we talked since Fort Dodge, we talked at the last race and that was it. Otherwise, like, even when I saw you, like normally we'd wave at each other, but like you weren't waving at me. We weren't talking. The scoring girls, or not the scoring girls, the registration, they like just so uninviting. It was insane. And I just wanted to race my side by side that I spent a lot of money on. That was it.
Well, I'm sorry you felt that way, because maybe it was because of the stuff circling around us that made people uncomfortable or something. I don't know. I wish we would have done this way ahead of time instead of waiting until tonight to do this. But unfortunately, it took stuff out on social media again to get it. I've literally never had anybody. We've pulled out of tracks before. And, I think anybody has. I mean, you look at GNCC, you look at any side-by-side series, there's new tracks that pop up all the time. You just mentioned that people don't like to race at the same track all the time. I completely get that, but it's my job to be able to find more tracks and new tracks. And again, I don't just go grab on somebody that has a track. We develop new tracks all the time, period. And we're working on 3 different ones right now as we speak, trying to get up and ahead of stuff like this. If it's a thing where I don't feel like, I can safely run an event, and you guys don't know what I mean when I say safely. You might be just looking at the speeds. You might be looking at this, but I still have I lost 2 tracks in the last 3 years because I mentioned the word side-by-sides, new facilities that we were going to. One was on the track, one was on the schedule to be done and backed out a week before the banquet when we were releasing the schedule because they thought that side-by-sides were going to be too big. These are tracks that OMA, actually, I'll be honest, that used to race on ATVs and dirt bikes, mainly dirt bikes. And they just couldn't understand allowing side-by-sides on the property. So we left them and went to a different facility. We have done a lot trying to help and grow the side-by-side started. You can say we started this side-by-side thing in the Midwest. We've been the only reason keeping it going in the Midwest outside of short course stuff. That's been it. You know, we've helped other series get started. We're not against other series. I told you guys 100 times. I'm all for you guys doing it. Do I feel comfortable with you guys coming into our tracks and run it? Like Mount Pleasant, the last 2 years, we've had issues of people getting off track. Where they've gotten off track to, they've jumped over onto a side-by-side track and went. That causes issues. So if my focus is 100% on the ATVs that we started this series on in 2004, my goal has to be ATVs only. So I don't need, if my focus isn't on side-by-sides anymore, I don't need wide tracks right beside them. When Joe and I talked, it was 8 miles of tracks that he told me that he was building out there, which means adding at least a minimum of 3 miles of course to the facility. And we talked about that. With that, there's nothing I can do. There's too many trails out there right now to have a tight air scramble. So on all the other tracks, if we have that stuff and they can jump over on them, that is an issue. There's a lot of other issues like they're not just the safety thing that you guys would normally think of. We're not against those at all. The only issue that we have here is I told you guys 100% from the beginning, and Jeff, that we were pulling out of the facility that you guys were going to race there. Nobody said anything bad about what you guys are doing there. That's fine. Now, do I want like all of our people being there because I don't want to burn out when I'm already bugging them like 8-9 times a year? No, I don't. I don't want that. But if they want to do that, that's fine. That's why we only do 7 races so people can go do their own thing. Go other series. We've said that a million times. But for all of this stuff coming in at once and then to see stuff out there, one, we've never knocked what you guys are doing. You can't ever show me anything that we've ever went on social media and said anything bad about you guys whatsoever. Zero. We've even referred them to you guys when people have asked, do you race short side-by-side? No, we don't. But these people up here are doing at least one race that we know of. Period. We haven't said a bad word to you guys. We haven't stepped out and said, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this to people. When I have sponsors call me and said, hey, I just got a call from these guys. What do you think? You need to talk to them because that's not me. I said, obviously, they're coming off of our play sheet with our sponsors, our social media, whatever it is, because every time something is posted, something gets posted for you guys. I understand wanting to piggyback and get that free stuff. I get that. But to have all this and to have it for some reason come up and be turned around that we're somehow against Fort Dodge, we're somehow against you guys, I don't understand any of that, whether it comes from the landowner or the people running it or anything. None of that makes any sense. We've never knocked the facility. We've never knocked you guys. So I'm trying to figure out where this is coming from. You guys do not, I believe, understand our sport that we have to focus on. It is tight timber. When I say tight, I don't want anything wider than 50 inches. We run on wide tracks at Fort Dodge just because we have to. We're down because of things that have evolved up there, whether it be the motocross or whatever. We spent a lot of time trying to pick up the pieces and find pieces because of that kind of stuff being done. We don't have a 50cc track there no more. It's not a hair scramble on our 50cc track, period. And I have to think about the 4-year-olds all the way up to the 70-year-olds racing the machine. And I don't feel like anybody on here can tell me what I need for an ATV hair scramble event as far as safety goes. I feel like I'm fairly comfortable with making that decision. So my question to you guys is, I don't know what was said from us or done from us that would make you guys, number one, think that we are trying to start another series side by side or become a partner somewhere. We have tried this all over the country. If you guys don't remember right, we tried to take ATV and side-by-side racing And it was all because of these side-by-side racing got dropped from GNCC is the only reason we did it. Put everything that we had into developing that series to go across the country. Now, if people were every single one of the races that we offered to do, then it would be a whole different thing because we might have 30 people. We might be trying to find ways to get around something or do on a different weekend, but we were down to 15 people on a race basis that would have that. They'll be there at the races. Now, maybe we were doing something wrong. I don't know. But you can't tell me that any one of you guys would have wanted to continue to do that if you were paying the bills, because it didn't add up. You guys can't pay $3,000 worth of facility payments a year or a month and make $1,500. It don't last very long doing that. We have spent twice as much on cleanup, twice as much on the facility being a skid steer, whatever it might be that we have. We don't need that stuff for ATVs. It doesn't make any difference. Our focus is on ATVs and doing the best we can for a certain entity, and that is ATVs. We tried the dirt bikes last year to help somebody else out. It didn't work out. We are focused 100%, and nothing's going to take us off of that and creating the best ATV events that we can, period. And if that offends somebody else, like if you do not understand why we can't do side-by-sides and people can get out there and they can talk all they want about it. If you can't understand why we need a facility or whatever it is, we need new facility. We need 14 tracks so we can rotate them. We've all talked about this in the past. It ain't nothing new. I'm really confused on where all this is coming from. Jeff knows that I told him that. He knows that I've talked to him about that. He could not have been surprised by us not coming back this year. You two know exactly what we had talked about. Rowdy and I talked very clearly at the last race on why we weren't coming back and everything. And your exact words was, I wish we could have talked before this, but you knew that it was not coming back.
I believe during that conversation, you said we were never coming back.
Not coming back. I never said ever. I said, we are not coming back. Never said ever. I have a big thing about burning a bridge and never saying ever. It's not came out of my mouth. So,
okay.
But I don't know what else to tell you other than.
So it sounds like we're running a bit here on time. You know, I want to be cautious of everybody's evening here. And thank you all for applying and sticking to our ground rules that we had. But let's just kind of like wrap this up. We've kind of gone in circles here. Jeff, great speeches. Andy, you said you're kind of what you've had to say. You know, the bottom line, you know, we can reiterate it again that we can't have side-by-sides affiliated same weekend as ATV races. That's against our AMA insurance. So as far as buddying up, we can do quads on Saturday, UTVs on Sunday. We are not allowed to do that. So just should make that clear one more time. Just try and clear up some of these comments that people are out here as well. We'd love to do something like that. But again, the current state, we're not allowed to do that. A lot of back and forth. There's been a lot of comments out there. I think we all just need to take a step back. We respect what you guys are doing, fully support it. And we want you guys in return to respect what we're doing. You guys can concentrate on the UTVs, miss all those guys, Lou, Mark Hambley, all the crew, Chris Drabel. Love to see them again. I'm sorry I missed your guys' race. I had another commitment. I will be at your next one if I'm available.
But I hope to see you there.
Let you guys focus on the UTV side. Let us focus on the ATV side. If it comes down, you know, you need some help or some advice. Certainly, Andy's always got an open door. He is our AMA representative as well. We're there, but I think you know, we're not really. We want to first off clear the air because there was lots of things that were said about our series, kind of dragging down what we're doing. And then we're totally against you guys, and that's not true.
Right. I think we can agree with that. I mean, at least I can. You know, I never thought you guys were against us. You know, I didn't think you guys were aiming to negatively affect anything. So, I mean, I think I commented on a post today and, said how it was sad, that, we couldn't get to enjoy racing with you guys right now. And life, we just got to work with it.
It is what it is. We got to move on. And I guess I just hope the animosity stops at the races when I come.
Gotcha.
If there's something,
I've listened to both sides, and to a point, I'm caught in the middle. I want to see both sides come, and if they can't have a race on the same weekend for insurance, okay, I understand that. But Andy still doesn't want to come just because these guys have came or because the track had got widened. Well, the track hasn't been widened. There shouldn't be a safety issue. Northern guys want to see it come, and I'm all for that. That I've heard both sides of the story, and I think we've kind of made our decision on whose opinion we should believe here. I don't say I don't care, because I do. I want to see Andy come back. I want to see Joe and Rowdy come back. It's good for everybody. And yes, we can agree if there's an insurance issue with Andy, he can't run side by sides. If he can't run side by sides on the same weekend, they can't come together and work together. But is there a reason why they can't continue to come to Fort Dodge because of the insurance issue? No, it's more of a personal issue, and we've made that clear. And some people here are way more emotional about it and yelling, arguing, whatever. I don't want to see that. I like to see both groups come. I'd like to see both groups have a great time. And if Andy doesn't want to come back for whatever reason, it's his choice, and we can't force him to do that. But I think most of the people have just said, hey, guys, why aren't they coming back? What's that reason? Okay, if we can't
I would agree. It's not
great.
It's not as tight as it is
It
at
has
other
nothing to do with
places.
insurance that they're not coming back.
Okay.
It's not as tight as it is at other places. I would commit my time. I know for a fact I could add 2 miles of tight trails to Fort Dodge, and I'd be willing to do that for you guys to come back. Like, make the trails myself, 50 inches wide. That's an added 2 miles of trails we've never been on. At least 2 miles.
Yeah, that wouldn't be hard. It would not be a reach to do.
Yeah, I will do that to bring the Iowa series back to Fort Dodge.
Well, yeah. Okay. And our schedule's set for 2026, right?
Yeah.
And Andy, I don't know if you've talked to Jeff really or truly what's going on with the Heartland. That it's not coming back. We won't ever say never, but I think it's ran its course. It took a lot out of the crew itself to put on that race. That I think we need a break from the Heartland. Sponsors were a little bit down as well. So that is why the Heartland's not going to happen this year. We need a little break. We do have a new racetrack, new race, a new type of event in the works for 2026. It's not like the Heartland. It'll be hopefully something special for the Midwest area. And that's kind of like where we're devoting our time currently to put into that race. But it doesn't say for next year that all the tracks are set, that we can revisit the tracks that we have and also take in consideration the few that we have that still need to be looked at and vetted out. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, once again, there's, I don't know where the arguing and yelling came from, but there's no hostility. We're not. You guys can do whatever you want. I don't understand still, like, the wavering out there amongst us, compared to you guys. It is what it is. But trust has to be earned, I guess, worked out. And I just don't feel like that's coming from all parties right now. So I guess we didn't really get anything worked out. I mean, it's more listening and talking and telling each other what we think, but That's fine. I just, like I said, I wish you guys 100% luck on anything. I hope you have the biggest UTV events that's ever been held in the Midwest. I 100% wish you that luck. But it's just not going to be ours. If there's a track of ours that you need to get that done, and you think you need to do that, then, and you don't feel like you can talk to me, I guess maybe the landowner can tell us,
This conversation made it a lot more open. Like, I definitely I wish I could have contacted you sooner, but going forward, I will contact you if need be, Yeah. I didn't feel like I could, I guess, for some reason.
Like I said, if it comes down to it and you need one of our tracks, we're getting fairly decent at building tracks. So we can, if it don't work out for the two of us, then we can find a new track. We can go out there and work. It's not something we're afraid of. So yeah, like I said, I think there's a lot of stuff being misconstrued out there right now, and that's fine. You're going to have that. If you guys think there's hostility towards you guys, I apologize for that. Any side-by-side guy that thinks, there might be some that's upset because they didn't get their way or didn't go their, this call didn't go their way type thing, but it's always going to be that, it's no matter what you do. I guarantee you Jeff's in that same situation with dirt track guys. You're never going to make every single person happy, but Jeff has to do his business with his track, so he's made some big decisions this year, and we've made some big decisions, and not everybody's going to agree with the decisions that we make. And not everybody's going to agree with Jeff on the decisions he makes. And no matter what we do, not everybody is going to leave that night being happy. You hope so. At least 90% of them, but it's never going to be that way because we all know what racing is. It brings out sometimes the ugly side of things. So it is what it is. Like I said, I don't want to be a part of the side-by-side racing. We are not looking at being a part of it anymore. It's ran its course with us. A facility, if we feel like a facility will work, we'll definitely look at going to it. We're going back to it. But I can
talk with you more about that later on too, about doing that work and if it'll even work and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can agree with that.
So I guess we support you, you support us, and there's a possibility you might come back to Fort Dodge in the future.
Yeah.
Is what I'm getting out of this conversation.
Yeah.
But that's how I feel too.
It's always a possibility.
Yeah.
So, yep.
I think we're all here to support each other for our goal at the end of the day. So
we all need to do a GoFundMe for Jeff for a new internet connection.
Yeah, no, seriously.
It's that frontier crap there for Dodge.
I feel like I have the same internet as him.
Yeah, you probably do.
Yeah.
Well, I've been told by many that nobody has better internet than him, but it must be at the track and not at his house.
Yeah.
I'm just running on 4G right now because my Wi-Fi cut out. So. Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you for inviting us on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Glad we could clear the air with some stuff. So.
Okay.
All righty. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yep. You guys have a great night.
Yep. We'll see you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.